with spring ice fishing just ahead. There's about a month remaining before the season closes for most of us in southern Saskatchewan. And one of the first things many fishers need to do before the season ends is get their shack off, the permanent ones, of course. Unless you're Jason, you got a temporary out there. Jason Matity is our fishing expert, by the way, from Getfishing.ca. Thanks for being here.
For sure.
All right, let's talk about it. You got to get those shacks off the lake. When do they got to get them off by?
Well, there's this sort of line where the weather, if you will, changes over the years, and that's Highway 16. So south of that by March 16th, and north of that March 31st. And you got to get them off because you don't want them to go through the ice.
And what are the consequences? What if we do leave them out there, like these beautiful rigs out there?
Yeah, well, and essentially what happens is they're going to fall through the ice and fall to the bottom, break apart, and cause all kinds of hazards out there for boaters, with wood sticking up, nails and different things. So it's really, really important that you make sure and get those dealt with.
Do you get a bill?
Well,
Somebody's
you can
Fish and Wildlife going to send you a bill?
What happens is conservation officers will go around and start. You're supposed to put your contact information on it. That's
right.
A legal requirement as well. So they'll go and start calling people and say, okay, you're past the deadline, and if people don't respond, it could be up to about $2,800.
You mentioned some of the problems.
Yeah.
What's the biggest one?
Well, as I say, the biggest one, obviously is the fines and the environmental problems, and out in the water, especially when the boating season starts. But the other thing is, you try to get them off early, Daryl, because when we start getting the warm temperatures, the approaches to the lake, the on-off areas, that's what deteriorates. And then if you're pulling a big, heavy shack, you can't get it off. So when conditions are good, that's the time to get them off.
All right, so let's talk fish. So you got some rods in front of us. If
Absolutely.
You've still got a couple of days left to get out there, what are we
Absolutely,
doing?
absolutely. And we got a lot of ice fishing left. We got, pretty much a whole month. So what I like to do is run 2 rigs at this time of year.
What's this one?
You're allowed to run 2 rods in ice fishing. Okay. So I go with the regular jigging one, so I have one of my all-time favorites. It's pretty small. It's our jigging walleye flasher jig on there. And then I got a spoon on this one, but this one is what's called the dead stick rig. And essentially you just let it sit there. You jig actively with that one, and a fish will come in. Often they'll hit the one that's moving, and sometimes they want one that isn't moving. So it's just sitting there with a bait, and they'll come in, they'll just watch the rod tip go down, and boom.
And this one takes off a little bit.
Yeah, exactly.
You let it have some slack.
You can set it that it'll just slowly pull line out with this clacker or system on the back here. What's the
advantage of that? Just gives
well, the bait runner, if you got it on, it'll just slowly pull line out and not pull your rod down.
To a point, though. Yeah. At what point do you want it to?
Well,
you want to catch that.
As soon as you see the rod bowing, and the nice thing about the dead stick rig is, it's got a nice soft tip, and that's the key to having a dead stick rig. Is you want to have it just sort of do this and see how it loads up a lot on the front end,
right,
and it's solid in the back end, and it's that indicator of the colored tip, and also just it's a nice soft front end to the rod.
And this is just your traditional
Absolutely.
Put it in the hole and have a couple of adult beverages and wait for it to bounce.
100%.
All right. Do you have any tips for us on your website?
Absolutely. All the spring techniques for pike, walleye, perch, and others are at Getfishing.ca. And when I say spring, I mean late ice fishing techniques, because we're not quite in spring yet.
False spring.
Exactly.
Jason, thank you.